Alright guys, well, welcome to the live stream and welcome to one of my first podcasts actually. This is going to be a podcast-like stream today and is going to count as my weekly podcast. So as we've been doing every week since about maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, we have been doing podcasts in which basically we talk about politics. We have a couple people on, and today I actually have a couple of people that are renowned, not really renowned, or I wouldn't say renowned, but they are pretty well known in the election community. So we're going to be joined by Red, White, and Ben, America First Mapping, and Election Motion. Now, the reason that we're doing this on my channel is that I know a lot of you possibly did think that we were supposed to do this on America First Mapping channel. But basically, for some reason, as soon as we started live streaming, he got copyrighted. So unfortunately, that actually might make America First Mapping unable to live stream for the time being. So that is, and it seems to be some sort of mistake. So unfortunately, again, my heart does go out to America First Mapping. So let's go ahead and unmute the lads, and we will get right into this live stream. So everyone that is listening now, welcome to the live stream, and welcome. Just go ahead and introduce yourselves.
Hello, this is America First Mapping. I was just listening to the stream. Yeah, there's definitely a bit of a like issue with the background noise because it's taking it's taking a pretty long time for everything to come up.
All right, and that was America First Mapping, and then Election Motion. If you could introduce yourself.
Hello, this is Election Motion, and yeah, I don't know what to say.
And I love your profile picture. It's very creative.
Yeah, it is.
Can't really tell who that America First's profile picture is. He looks very familiar.
Yeah, he looks similar to someone I know.
Yeah, he kind of looks similar to someone I know.
It's secret footage of after Red Eagle's computer broke.
Oh man, wonder if Red Eagle's just gonna watch this and just go, "What the fuck are y'all doing?"
Yeah.
But anyway, the purpose of this live stream is basically, again, that we're doing a discussion about politics, current events, just anything, and it's mostly if you guys have any questions, if you guys have any discussions, or just any sort of suggestion, I guess, to what we should be discussing, and then basically it's just what chat kind of wants it to do, and then we discuss it between each other. So if there's anyone that does have a question for anyone in this live stream, do hit that chat button, and we will get to that question. But if anyone else that is in this podcast right now, if you guys have anything to talk about that can kick us off until someone starts asking a question, then that would actually be a little better.
Yeah, so I kind of wanted to talk about this a little bit. I made a new video earlier. No one really watched it. I think I will link it, basically about how the Republicans could win in 2020, in 2024, because there's a huge amount of people who think the moderates would do way better in 2024. Which I actually don't think, and I explain it in this video, and I'll just link it real quick in the thing.
Moderates have less passionate viewers.
Yeah, the link doesn't work, but basically, I think if PG wants to link my channel in the chat, then he can.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and do that real quick, just so you guys can. I'll actually instead of chat, I'll actually do it in the description of this video.
Okay, yeah.
All three of us.
I'll do all of y'all's channels, Election Motions, and America First, and Red, White, and Ben's.
We're trying to get up to 150. We're at 133 right now.
Yeah, actually, instead of that, I'm actually going to try to shoot y'all for 200. So if we can get them up to 200 subscribers, let's do that.
Oh, you've gotten your first dislike.
Aw. Aw, who disliked
Well,
y'all bastards?
sad.
Well, no. Tetrim just commented moderates won the election. What I mean is, like, the GOP, like the Susan Collins types aren't going to win the Republicans an election. I didn't mean like that's not, because basically you can't really win an election with a Susan Collins type of
Yeah.
person.
Someone asked a question about
to
Burma.
reach out to like the blue collar workers.
Someone asked a question about Burma. I'm pretty sure. I'm assuming that the person's talking about the mistreatment of Muslims, right? I'm not completely sure.
Burma is Myanmar. It's a country in Southeast Asia.
I know.
They're the ones that are going through like some sort of a military coup right now, and it's basically like a really, really bad Tiananmen Square, except it's not in China.
The Ant also just said, personally, if the Republicans run someone like Trump in 2020, which some Republicans will vote Democrat, that's the exact same thing that will happen the other way. If you run like a Susan Collins type, what's going to happen is, what is going to happen if they do that is like the blue collar workers are not going to come out and vote, or they will vote. And Iowa actually could be in play because people don't always think about this, but Obama won it by a likely margin because he was able to try to, even though he didn't do anything populist, he was able to do that rhetoric, which got him that area. If Nikki Haley just goes to Iowa and's like, socialism sucks, they're not going to be able to win anything. They're not going to be able to win.
One of the things that I think about that is if there, because the thing about it is the people that have had discussions with about this, because I've had this discussion actually before, where it's basically a lot of people, especially a lot of Democrats that I know, not. Give me a second. I'm sorry. Someone lead us off.
Wait, what happened?
I have to step away for 1 second. I am sorry.
Ooh. Blue collar workers are drifting left anyways. No, they're not really. If you take a look at areas like Wisconsin's 3rd District, I could pull that up, the Ant. Actually, the areas that actually shifted right this time, but at least in Wisconsin, I know, and parts of Michigan and Pennsylvania too, they are shifting right. Tetstream just says to election motion that you don't have to type in chat, you can say it right now.
Yeah, I know. But I'd like to type in chat as well.
Okay, I'm sorry for that. Anyway, if someone could actually kind of remind me what I was talking about, because I know I was talking about something.
Burma, I believe.
It was about the someone like Trump. So I've actually had this discussion before with several people, not a lot of very left-wing Democrats, but a lot of people who basically did vote Democrat this election cycle. And there's a lot of people who basically like what Trump was doing, especially policy-wise. People liked the Trumpist policy, but they didn't like Trump himself. I mean, me personally, I was actually one of the people who basically hated Trump's personality, but I absolutely loved what he was doing with the country and the direction that he was pulling us in.
Yeah, that's the whole, they didn't vote for him because of Trump's Twitter thing.
Yeah, and it's kind of funny because now that, you know, Biden is introducing that tax hike and doing a lot of things in accordance with taxes, and that he's only doing the promises that he said that he was going to do, it doesn't surprise me. And then now they're basically telling me like I hate what Biden is doing with taxes, and I'm just like, but Orange Man bad, right? You know, Orange Man make bad tweets. So yes. it's stupid that a lot of people had to vote for someone just so they could see, oh, well, he's going to do this, 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 and this. Oh, it's like as if, 74 million people didn't see that coming from a mile away.
And Ted Traby just said, what would you define as a Trump policy, and what ways did he achieve it?
Anything that basically classifies as Trumpism. Trumpism is basically, non-interventionism, protectionism in some cases. Basically, it's because it's not about American isolationism. It's about, because there's a specific, so it says Trumpism for the political ideology, style of governance, political movement instead of mechanism for acquiring, and, well, I wouldn't go as that far. That's a Wikipedia definition of Trumpism, but yeah, it also, to some extent, it would have to be populism as well, right-wing populism.
Yeah, and I'll be the first to admit, Trump hasn't done a lot of, what he said he was going to do. He, in 2016, but that just shows, even though he wasn't nearly as populist as his campaign, you still had the blue-collar workers in the 3 Rust Belt states managed to trend right. And if people don't believe that, I can link the New York Times trend map and showing the blue-collar areas.
Okay, and Tatrimi is asking about policy examples. So one of the first ones that I'm going to list off is ending American reliance on China. He also did continue the Obama policy of basically ending our reliance on foreign oil, with the Keystone XL pipeline. But then, especially whenever it came to China, he was basically one of the first presidents, at least in a while, that has basically stood up to China and said, we're not going to buy from you anymore. And especially as the years started pulling on and with their, treatment of the Xinjiang Uyghurs, etc., there was a lot of reasons why we needed to stop relying on China so much. And then that was another policy that he did, is that he started bringing, it's not necessarily about bringing the jobs back, but it's about ending our reliance on other countries, and especially China.
Okay, the aunt just said, glad we got rid of the Keystone Pipeline. So how about you go over to South Dakota, talk to one of the 6,000 workers who lost their jobs and tell them about that.
Maybe Byron should have came up with a job replacement.
His job was horrible.
He didn't say anything about the Uyghurs, and it says Tatrimi. Directly, I don't think he said anything to about the Uyghurs at the end of his administration, but his administration did classify the Uyghur what's going on in Xinjiang as a genocide. That was his administration that identified it as that. Now this administration, the Biden administration,
it was Mike Pompeo.
Yeah, it was Mike Pompeo.
Yeah.
This he was based on the main man who declared the Uyghur genocide a genocide.
Yeah, and then now the Biden administration is kind of stepping back on that, but then also kind of not stepping back on it. So it's kind of, I'm waiting to see where the Biden administration is going to go with it.
Okay, so the aunt just says, how long do you think they would have been employed? What they would have done is they usually would start looking for jobs when it's getting finished up. If you completely destroy a project halfway through it, then they've got nowhere to go. Because if they would have a general idea. If it wasn't canceled and it was continuing, they would have had a general idea when it was going to stop. Then they would have applied for a new job while they were working on it. They wouldn't. But what they did, Biden just put a full stop to it his first day in office. They had nowhere to go. They had no jobs. They would have had to go all the way from scratch. So
and another thing, it seems to be a little bit of a debate between me and Tatrimi. I ask for examples, and the second thing that comes to you is quote, continuing successful Obama policy? Well, the thing about whenever a new administration from another party comes in, if there's a successful policy that is in the other administration and then you want to continue that policy, I mean, if there's nothing wrong with that policy, obviously, Obama did have that shale boom that allowed us to stop being so dependent on foreign oil and then allowed us to become number one in terms of oil production. And then Trump also continued that policy and then expanded it more than it has been during the Obama administration, because there was a lot of regulations that stopped Obama from doing that, and then that's what happened in the Trump administration. He basically achieved nothing. Again, that's a matter of debate. That's why we're discussing it. But anyway, I want to go ahead and go with the ant.
Say this: people act like Bernie's a super chief politician. Like, up until like a year ago, the most consequential thing he had ever passed through was changing the U.S. code from saying men to people. That was.
You had a debate with Tetream about that, or likely yesterday.
Yeah, but that was like
you're basically repeating what you said yesterday.
I know.
So the ant has kind of said something earlier. He said, PG, the Biden tax hike is only for people making more than $400,000 a year, but I agree with him not doing certain things. I'm a leftist, and I only voted for Biden because of Trump. Would rather have had Bernie or Warren. So, yeah, I mean, that's actually something else that I wanted to get to, is that Biden tax hike to discuss on this stream. But one of the things about the Biden tax hike is that, yes, there is no evidence right now, at least right now, that we're seeing that Biden is going to increase taxes on people making less than $400,000 a year, even less than $200,000, $150,000, $100,000 a year.
Kamala Harris said that Biden wasn't going to do that.
Yeah,
in the debate against Mike Pence.
But I mean, with nearly a $4 trillion deficit, there is still a chance that there are going to be tax hikes elsewhere, and we still haven't seen the legislation yet posted. So we still don't know exactly what's going to be in that legislation that Biden is going to be hiking taxes, because the way the media is pinning this is that it is going to be the largest tax hike in 30, 40 years since the 1993 Omnibus Reconciliation Bill. So it's going to be the largest tax hike, but again, we still have to see where the taxes are going up. But right now, we don't see anything saying that it's going to tax people less than $400,000 a year.
Yeah, I did kind of want to respond. Earlier, he said, we need to preserve the environment in response to me talking about the Keystone workers. The fact is, the world is not going to get any less polluted by just having that one pipeline gotten rid of. That's not going to change anything. Even that Green New Deal study shows if the U.S., I think I talked about this in my first stream, but the U.S., if we did the Green New Deal, it would have less of an effect on the climate than if you if you put your hand in front of your face, you're experiencing more of a temperature difference than the Earth would if the U.S. did the Green New Deal.
Interesting.
What are you guys' thoughts on climate change as a whole?
We need to do eventually. We need to do something about it, but not like right away.
I'm here now.
Hey, it's Ben.
That Green New Deal is way too crazy, because we can over time decrease fossil fuels. You can't just go in 4 years, ban all fracking completely, just get out of the completely get out of
Paris
all
climate.
of these industries in 4 years. You can't do that.
I believe it's a bit too quick, but we do eventually need to do something about it.
Well, yeah, we can do it over time, and it's not gonna. The world is not. I feel like the majority of people, the last couple of climate agreements worked. And did the stream just get taken down?
Oh, what? Yeah, sorry. That was me.
Oh, okay.
What?
The last couple climate agreements, they were not really working. The U.S. fun fact, there was data, the U.S. actually was decreasing carbon faster after they pulled out of the Paris Agreement.
Also, we've decreased the most out of any single country. And it's largely in part from natural gas.
Doing anything. Like, the U.S. was the only one. Well, no, the U.S., this is not like a science denial. The U.S. was doing all of the stuff from the Paris Climate Accord. China and anyone else did nothing. They literally did.
See, nothing. Like, I absolutely.
Economies.
Sorry, what?
What I'm saying is they're developing economies. So now, as they're developing, they're using a lot of natural gases or natural fuels. They're using coal, they're using natural gas, they're using oil. Like, India has massive coal reserves, and they're burning so much every day.
Yeah.
And the thing is, until they become developed enough because climate change is really a first world problem. Like, you can't go into, like, middle of nowhere Africa where people are literally burning, like, poop for energy and say, oh, this is not environmentally conscious. Like, if we're going to have to do something about it, like, the United States is doing a lot. Like, that's my point.
I see, the thing about it is that I don't know if the stream's acting a little weird. The thing about that is like I actually believe that climate change is one of the biggest threats to our society right now. And the thing is the climate agreements that we've been signing, like the Paris Climate Agreement, for example, I honestly thought that one was because, and someone said this in a comment a second ago. It said you're disagreeing with science. Science is meant to be disagreed with. That is the point of a scientific argument. That you and I are allowed to basically have two different opinions, and then we do experiments on that. And the thing about it is that, and I think I saw something about this last night. The thing about it is that the way we're basically accustoming our people to think right now is that if a scientist says something, even though it is, yes, 90% of scientists are saying that climate change is real and it is a threat to us. But
I think it's,
the thing about it is,
I think it is a threat. But yeah, 99% of scientists do not agree that the world is going to end in 12 years. That is the thing I disagree with. I think it's not going to end in 12 years.
The ant has said, let's not do something now. That's what people have been saying for decades. We do need to do something now. I agree with that, but not
like decreasing, maybe like a few like federal benefits.
Increasing solar and wind turbine energy.
Like nuclear
energy is the way that we're going to have clean power. Until
Absolutely.
we figure out cold fusion, nuclear is the way.
Yep.
I think it's the liberals. They are not like they've like as a society,
like AOC.
Like said, oh, nuclear is bad because it's dangerous. But we have to get over that.
There's only been like
3 major accidents. You think about like all the ones, like think about BP, the BP oil spill. That was massive. Like that happens all the time.
There's still one
up in Alaska that's
leaking every single day. Like, nuclear is so much more safe than
oil and
all these other fossil fuels.
The thing about that is that, like, it's so funny whenever you hear all these people saying, we need to take on climate change. We need to do this against climate change. We need to do that against climate change. We need to end our reliance on fossil fuels. Okay, can we go to nuclear power? No, nuclear power is too dangerous. Okay, why is nuclear power too dangerous? Oh, because of Chernobyl, 3 Mile Island, Fukushima. Can you name anything else past those 3? No, you can't, because because nuclear power, out of every other one, for one, has the lowest CO2 emissions out of any other any other power plant, renewable power plant at that. And it's just that, like, because solar and wind are efficient, but they're not that efficient. Nuclear power, especially in the United States, is going to be the only way. And even progressives like Cory Booker of New Jersey say that the more they've looked at ways we can fight climate change, the more he's actually started to support things like nuclear power. And he actually is co-sponsoring the American Nuclear Infrastructure Act of 2020, which is going to be the largest investment into nuclear power since the 2005 Energy Act.
Yeah, what was I going to say? I was going to say, that well, here's the thing. I think we can work towards it, but that doesn't mean we just go over to everyone and just say no more. We can't just go over and say no more using this energy, because that would cause tons of jobs to be lost. And people are like, but we would building all these new power plants would get them more jobs. Not for everyone though. We can slowly work out of that by building more nuclear power plants. Lose for more of this stuff, but I think you can't. Here's my question for the people who are like, we need a global Green New Deal. How the heck do you think we're going to get Russia and China to fall onto that?
And all of Africa, most of the people in Africa are literally burning animal dung and
sticks to have energy.
That is a utopian idea, which it's physically impossible. You can't get Russia and China to sign on to some global Green New Deal. They can't even. Yeah. They can't even honor
Russia's too dependent on oil and natural gas.
If they can't even handle the Paris Agreement, do you seriously think they'd be able to handle a Green New Deal? Of course not. So yeah. I just have to shatter that whole thing of people saying, "Oh, the world needs to unite against climate change." It's not going to happen.
Yeah, most of the countries' economies are too dependent on oil and fossil fuels.
Especially Russia. And
yeah,
Russia is one of the largest exporters of oil, and then China is one of the biggest importers. And
Russia is gonna collapse. If they stop using oil.
But to the credit of the Chinese have actually been outpacing energy production in terms of nuclear power against the United States for the past couple of years. They have maybe 100 nuclear reactors that are under construction or under development at this time. So that's one of the things that a lot of people need to realize is, the United States can get behind it. It's not impossible for the United States to get behind a possible Green New Deal on a global scale. However, the biggest polluters, including in Africa, in India, in China, in Russia, none of them are wanting to cooperate or even do it fairly. So why should the United States have until 2030 to dismantle, basically be net zero emissions by 2030, while China and Russia have until 2050?
It's like a group project where you do everything and everyone else is asleep.
Yeah, exactly.
I was going to respond to the ant. He said, then sanctions against him. If half of the world is not...
Russia has been sanctioned for the last 7 years.
Well, yeah. If we were to put sanctions on these countries, then half of the world is not going to deal with this. What's going to happen? Also, Africa, China, India, tons of these Asian countries, they're just not going to do it.
So then you sanction a country in Africa,
and
they don't even have the ability to make these high-tech nuclear facilities. You sanction them, they should make them even poorer and less likely to build these.
Well, the U.S. doing that is not going to help anything. The U.S. is one of the least per capita producers of all this fossil fuel. It's China and India, and the leftists, they don't want to talk about that. They don't want to realize that is the reason. That it is China and India who are doing it, not the U.S. There's that famous meme of them going of the person looking at all the entire world and seeing factories in India and just being looking at the U.S. and being that's who you need to do better. You need to. Yeah, but it's the U.S. is not nearly increasing enough. Even if the U.S. and Europe, who would be the most likely to do it, even if they were to all do it, it would be nothing. It would be nothing.
Compared to the rest of the world, the United States has been decreasing in terms of carbon emissions, but
China and India have been increasing.
Yeah, and that's the only other thing about it is, I understand. I obviously understand. Everyone can understand that climate change is real. If you're not retarded, then we can all see that climate change is real. All four of us are in agreement that climate change is a real threat to humanity, right? So
down, yeah.
the only thing
it's just
is,
saying, these utopian ideas of just the world uniting against climate change, they're just like.
I also think it's like you don't think that companies are having incentives to try to build cleaner renewable energy. Like I guarantee,
yeah,
one person who figures out clean renewable energy will become the richest person in history. They will make trillions and trillions of dollars. There's so much incentive right now to switch to green energy. It's like insane. That's why you see like Amazon investing in wind, like all these big companies investing in renewable and clean energy. There's such a big market for it.
Yes, Tetrim is saying this. The U.S. Yes, I think the U.S. can do this. They can get out of a lot of like this oil stuff, but you can't just go immediately and be like all fracking workers out of their jobs, all manufacturing out of your jobs. Like, yes, the U.S. should be decreasing, but you can't just. It can be over time. Like the world, most scientists agree the world is not going to end in 12 years. And that is just the only people saying that are political activists like AOC. That's the whole reason that we're saying it.
Well, and also like this is also one little thing. Like I'm not like this is sort of a broad generalization, but there is a lot of roots of Marxism and communism in the environmentalist movement. Like they basically had the same idea where like, okay, there's a big catastrophic thing, and we must adjust our economy to fit this to make a more inclusive, more environmental centric economy, and this includes tearing down all the systems that make pollution.
So I was actually thinking about this before, just to kind of like counter what you guys were saying about like we can't just like do that because a lot of people would lose their jobs. Tatrimi actually said this, and I was thinking it right before he said it. The counter argument to that is basically that if we do that, we want to go to zero emissions by 2030, then the way to solve that issue is that we need a jobs program. We need to make sure that the people who are losing their jobs, you know, from Keystone XL pipeline to people who would lose their jobs whenever they're working in the coal or oil industry, that those people are going to need jobs. So then the federal government would step in and then allow them to have a job, you know, in replacement to the one that they just lost.
I sort of agree with that. Like I wouldn't like create a federal jobs guarantee. I would more do big tax breaks to companies who hire people and are investing in clean energy. So that way it's more like less of a direct government approach. Because like once again, I don't like big government. I mean, I'm fine with some government. Like I'm not a libertarian, but I don't want a large, overreaching federal government guaranteeing jobs. I'd much more have a tax break incentive for private businesses to create better clean energy.
Yeah, but yeah, that there is that whole argument. Why don't we just print money argument? I don't even want to get into it because it's such a brain dead argument. Which the people who honestly think we should print more money just don't understand economics. Like, oh, Tetrum joined.
Yeah,
he just joined.
Let me adjust this real quick. Just need to readjust the way this overlay looks.
Yeah,
You added him.
Yeah. I didn't know he was coming in until I saw him join the Discord thing, and I was like, oh, okay.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello.
Sorry, I just have to say a few things. Like, fucking hell. I swear, I'm sorry. I should ask. The idea that the jobs, we're going to lose 1,000 jobs here and 1,000 jobs there. The country will be underwater in 50 years. Like, have some perspective, first of all. And the fact that I agree, someone said earlier about the green energy and all being a massive economic boost. Like, get on that, and the jobs will more than make up for themselves. And I have studies if you want them, but otherwise, go on ahead.
Well, yeah. Well, I don't think the U.S. is going to be like completely underwater in 50 years. I do think like it could happen like within like 100, but I do think we should be moving into more green energy. But that means like we can't just like go over and just get rid of all these jobs immediately. We can do it like over the time of like the next like 6 years or so. We could move towards that.
All right.
Yeah, we need to
Find the balance between economic viability and human prosperity, because we don't want
Well-
everyone to be out of a job and everyone's poor.
My
Oh,
response to that.
so I just have a question. What
Yeah.
is your solution to getting Russia and China to join like a hypothetical Green New Deal? Because you had mentioned that we sanction them, but then what if like Africa joins? What if just half the world is sanctioned then? They won't
All right,
sanction.
this is a really easy thing to do. So the problem with third world nations getting onto, like I said, a Green New Deal is, of course, that they are underdeveloped and they don't really have the money the US does, for example. However, the US, for one, can't afford it, and to save the most people possible, in 50 years or 100 years or however long you want to think, we need to spend as much possible money and resources on this now. And since the US can afford to do it, they should be. China, for their own good, probably should be. And to some extent they are. Russia is Putin's a fucking idiot on this. Like he's smart on a lot of stuff. He's stupid on this. But what I will say is for Africa, honestly, if we wanted to do the best, we should be funding certain parts of Africa, say, to do certain things. Like just, oh, here's $1 billion. Make sure have a solar panel company. Like just, we should be doing things like that. Like it should be a global effort.
I mean,
if some
another
countries
way-
don't just-
Another way could actually be like saying like the amount of foreign aid. I mean, the United States is one of the biggest lenders of foreign aid in the world. I mean, if for countries that give out foreign aid, and then if that's the way it's going to be accustomed, or even UN aid or something like that. Anyway, the point is that I mean, you could actually say like. You could actually say, like, I mean, if this money is going to go to you, you say, like, a certain percentage of it could go into, you know, environmental programs or into, you know, building your economy, because you say that they're still developing. Yes, they are. But the way that they could possibly solve that issue is that if they really are signing on to these agreements, then the way they build their economy, because, I mean, they're still developing. So the way they build their economy from the ground up is that they could build it into a zero-emission kind of economy.
Oh, I actually agree with all that. Like, I'm okay with that. Yep. That's good.
Yeah.
So,
Like, the less dependence they have on oil, the better. Like, that's like where I'd go with third world countries.
but then it comes into the issue of things like colonialism, because I noticed that you said something earlier about like, well, India hasn't had the time to develop because they've only had independence, and I think you alluded to this. They've only had independence since 1947.
That wasn't me that said that one, but
oh, so
someone else.
Someone said,
Yeah.
okay, someone said. I thought it was you. Sorry. But anyway. And I mean, that was somewhat of a good point. But then it's like those countries that have been under colonial rule for so long, and I'm not taking a position for or against it, or like even defending it or whatever. My point is that the countries that have been under colonial rule for so long are now being told by the countries that ruled them, by Europe, by the United States, by not really Canada, but Canada is kind of like an extension of it, that those countries are now telling them how to develop their economies. Because the Paris Climate Agreement was very likely not geared toward how African economies should be developed, or if they were, then correct me. But it's very likely that those agreements are geared on how the West should advance into the next couple of decades.
That's a fun thing, because the Paris Climate Accord, to my knowledge, didn't force any country to do anything. The countries set their own goals and were asked to meet those goals by a certain time period. So a country setting its own goals doesn't really strike me as, and unenforced goals, that doesn't really strike me as colonialism.
Yeah, but then there comes with another problem where, like, how do you enforce? Like, if someone just says, "Okay, I'm going to do that," but, like, they don't do that, then, like, what's the point of having the thing?
Well, no, the idea is you want to do that because, and if the country doesn't do it, like the US pulled out, there was no consequences. The Paris Climate Accord didn't go nearly far enough. It was completely like.
Well, I don't think like the UN should be like a actual like. In my opinion, you may disagree with this, but I think it should be abolished. I don't think that there should be that entity. It basically just exists for a bunch of bureaucrats to come to America and force America to do a bunch of stuff, basically. And you may disagree with that, but I think
I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. I'm sorry. Oh, can I swear? I apologize.
Yeah,
I kind of swore earlier, so yeah, just don't do it that much. But yeah, you can.
I'll keep it
Just
down.
do it too frequently.
My reaction.
Not too frequently.
Yeah. Okay. Does anyone else want to take the UN point? Because I feel like that's a pretty easy thing to respond to, or not. Okay. The UN is fairly ineffective as an international body. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
It is pretty ineffective.
The US wants, and it's just I don't really see the point of complaining about it. Like, when the fuck was the last? Sorry. When was the last time the UN really did something that mattered to the US?
There's been like 5 genocides, 6 genocides. I mean, more than half a dozen genocides since the creation of the United Nations, and they were created to stop another genocide from happening, and they've let a lot slip under them.
Yeah, and they basically
haven't done anything about the Uyghurs in China. Really,
they don't care. When Trump had banned travel to China, they had called it a xenophobic issue, at least the World Health Organization. They ignored Taiwan. They referred to Taiwan as a province of China. They ignored the Uyghur genocide as an organization that was supposed to be created to prevent
There are reasons for that. I will not defend the UN on those points. The reason for that, of course, is because the UN has 5 major bodies. The US is one. However, China is another, and China will only be a major member as long as Taiwan and the Uyghurs are not recognized. So you're not really going to get that much of the UN on that point. However,
another thing I think is stupid. Okay, go ahead.
No, I mean, my point is like, oh fuck, it's out of my head. Go ahead.
I feel that.
Yeah. You had a point.
Well, there was one thing I was going to say. It is pretty dumb that they decide, out of all countries, they decide to put China on the Human Rights Council.
And Saudi Arabia.
I agree, that's hilarious.
That's pretty ironic.
Yeah.
Like, it's all just bureaucratic agencies. China's a very powerful partner, and they want to keep China happy.
Right. However, I will say, like,
the Yemen humanitarian crisis is happening, and the UN has been effective at stopping it. Yeah, that is true.
Like, for most crises, like, the UN is effective, but it's just very ineffective when it comes to international US politics. Because every time it needs soldiers, the US or the UK does supply most of them, and the US does have massive influence in that way. So yeah, it's ineffective, but it's definitely necessary.
Oh yeah,
I would say
I don't really want to get into the whole UN. It's kind of hard to explain. Basically, it's founded. It's basically founded. It was supposed to be like some utopian ideal of like the world coming together, which it's basically. I think the majority of people can admit the world is never going to unite. It's not going to happen. It's physically impossible. We may come to like it can't happen. Sure, it might happen for a little bit. You'd be able to get it for like 10 years or so. Humans naturally go into
We'll disagree on stuff.
Yeah. Well, I just say on the UN thing. If you're aware of your history, then the UN is just a more effective version of the League of Nations, which was formed after World War I.
That was terrible.
Yeah, it was basically a more effective version, but still pretty ineffective.
And having a League of Nations that was just more effective has proven to be a more effective, peaceful way of going about the world. So, as of our sample size of 2, having a more effective international body has worked better than the first one. So I like it. Okay.
For what I know, they did handle the Korean War decently, somewhat.
That was like the high point of the United Nations, is just their handling of the Korean War.
It's gone downhill ever since the Korean War.
The UN is just basically for most major diplomatic things these days. The UN is basically just where you go to call North Korea.
Yeah.
But otherwise, yeah. I mean, I'm glad
and every International Women's Day, they always post something stupid. That's about it.
That's a bit weird.
Who needs women?
Oh my god.
Yeah,
Stop, you're gonna get me demonetized.
No, it's fine.
Yeah, let's not get him demonetized.
Okay, I'm sorry.
I'm just
10
kidding.
viewers, I'm sure. No.
I mean, it's kind of like a normal politics stream for me, I guess.
Yeah.
Not
Yeah,
like
my
not like Red
server-
Eagle where
yeah,
I'm getting like
if my
300
server-
viewers.
Like some of the channels on my server would get this video demonetized.
I'm still surprised you got copyrighted. That was crazy.
Yeah,
I don't
it's
know, maybe
because he
I've
showed
got
his
like that
face.
little Biden picture in the corner. I think I'm gonna change that. I put that there like a week before the election. I just never took it down. Like,
That as a joke.
You didn't play music or anything, no?
No, he didn't. It just showed his face.
Yeah, it was
Maybe
just
it's a
showing his
shirt he's
face.
wearing?
He wasn't playing
the
any
COPPA
music.
law prohibits under 13, but and he looks like he might be under 13, which he isn't. But yeah,
That's still stupid.
Tetrim watches AOC porn. Someone has that as their that status thing.
that's Wilhelm who has the.
Why do you have a status like that? If
While we're
you-
still kind of on it, what do you guys think about the situation with Taiwan? Because the Biden administration actually made a
Taiwan should
statement.
control all of mainland China.
Yes, but the Biden administration, the Secretary of State Anthony B.
Blinken.
Anthony Blinken actually referred to Taiwan as a country.
I saw that.
Yeah. So
That's not bad.
what are you guys' thoughts on that?
Taiwan should control the entire Chinese
Taiwan is a
mainland.
country. It should be recognized.
The most effective anti-China policy that's come out of the US administration in the last 4 years that wasn't racist. Ha. Take that. Run with that. What do you got? What do you got?
I'm sorry.
No, I know. I'm just trying to stir shit.
Yeah, I know. It was kind of funny. That's why I started laughing.
Yeah, let me see.
I would say, like, beside all the trade things that were happening in the past 4 years, I think I really wish someone in the Trump administration at least said something like that, because that's literally off of one word. That's how you piss off the CCP. Because they're gonna do something just because the U.S. said that.
That is my point, though. Like Trump got along well with Xi Jinping. The problem was he postured more than he did anything real with China. Like his immigration ban was too late to do anything, so it just came off as ineffective and racist.
I saw this one video, it's a really good video, and I would recommend those watching this live stream right now. The video is titled, I think it's like the greatest failure of Donald Trump, and
Trying unscripted.
It was basically like a whole video about Trump basically allowing the rise of China. And it's like an hour-long video. It's honestly a really good watch, whether you agree or disagree with the whole point of the video. So I would recommend y'all watching that video.
Yeah, I think Trump was pretty ineffective when it came to China. I did kind of want to point out, if Tetrim was talking about the whole travel ban thing, as people call it, the Muslim ban, I would like to point out it wasn't really a Muslim ban, because Venezuela...
The Muslim ban.
He wasn't referring to the Muslim ban. He was referring to the travel ban from China.
Was that the one after COVID that happened?
That's the one you were talking about earlier, in which you said Biden said was.
Well, it wasn't. He had banned it because of he had done it after the COVID broke out, and Biden called it xenophobic.
But yeah, because COVID already broke out, there's no point denying travel to China and China alone at that point. If he denied travel to everywhere, it's fine. He didn't, though. He was just like, that's China.
Yeah, he probably should have. I think, he should have definitely banned it.
If he put it to Europe at the same time, no one would have a problem.
Yeah, he should have done that too. I agree. No, but he called it the fact that he had banned travel to anywhere at all xenophobic. That was.
Can we start a drinking game for everything America First mapping says utopian?
Yeah.
Well, that's like a lot of this ideas
I
that
don't
people are
think-
talking. Like,
how many of us can legally drink? Is it just?
I don't
no,
think.
it's just like all the
only-
stuff these people are saying. It's
I'm
basically
not
Catcher,
sure if
what-
anyone here is able to
What's the
legally
legal
drink.
drinking age in Ireland?
Huh?
What's the drinking age in Ireland?
Oh, technically 18. I can drink.
How
I
old?
can.
Yeah.
I drank for long. I'm sorry.
You cut out. I didn't hear you. What was the age?
No, 18. The answer is 18.
Yeah,
I
18.
think throughout most of Europe, it's 18.
Well,
Yeah.
a lot of Europe.
I heard like France. I heard like France. They still let like kids drink. So
Oh yeah. France and Italy have like weird laws, but it's strange.
It's
Yeah,
France.
It's
Oh,
just
yeah.
France.
They love their wine. Okay. I think it is just literally just wine they let it happen for.
It's. Oh, I was gonna say that. I don't know. The whole thing about it, the travel ban, because if we're gonna, I mean, I've heard someone talking about the travel ban, but the travel ban, the whole thing about that was, weird thing is that, and I'm not saying that this is the reason why, but did you ever notice how, there throughout the entire presidency of Trump during that travel ban, that, I mean, there wasn't really a large radical Islamic attack during that whole time? I saw
there
someone,
wasn't.
and I'm not trying to say like, Trump 2024 or something like that. Basically, I saw this on another thread, and then it's more of just kind of like a discussion piece.
My response.
Are you talking about the Muslim travel ban?
Yeah.
Okay.
it wasn't really a Muslim ban though,
It
because
bans people from Muslim majority countries. It banned just people in general.
Big difference right there.
Yeah, there were several Muslim majority countries and North Korea and Venezuela, which are not Muslim majority. They're both Catholic and atheist majority, respectively.
Venezuela's Christian, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, Catholic. I said Catholic.
Catholic. They're a Catholic.
Yeah.
I mean, big move, like not allowing travel from countries that were already heavily sanctioned. Like they're kind of irrelevant to the point.
Yeah.
Like
That's the
how
only
many
other
travel-
thing is that it's in some ways there were a couple of Trump policies that were basically not really moot, but it was more just kind of like, I think that it was already happening, and then he was just, because he talked about it on the campaign trail, and then made a policy about it.
As for, did
And
you
then-
say the Muslim ban were just terrorist attacks, or were you trying to get at that?
Again, it was more of a discussion piece instead of me
okay.
basically believing that.
Well,
Yeah.
even if that was true, I would say that the Muslim ban did not last, and even if it was true, it would be seen to the same extent that school shootings have somehow decreased for some strange reason over the past year.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
Yeah, it's mysteriously decreased.
I was like a hair's edge from saying, I wonder why, but then I actually remembered why.
What? Oh, wait,
think
are
you
you
should
on
mute
your
yourself.
mic again, Benny boy?
Yeah, someone should mute
What'd you say?
themselves.
I think you should mute yourself for a
I'll
bit.
do it. That's me. Sorry.
Oh yeah, what was I gonna say? I was gonna say, yeah, like a lot of the stuff that the media would say about Trump was overblown. You guys may have heard of the whole Charlottesville thing, which was a complete myth, and I can give you like,
What is
well,
that?
basically there was this whole clip. He referred to
Oh yeah.
some people protesting there as very fine people. The media made it seem.
Very well aware of
Yeah.
Charlottesville.
The media had said that he had called the white supremacists fine people, but he wasn't. There were more like people there who were just protesting the removal because they thought, and it was an important statue, which I disagreed with. But that's what the people there thought. He wasn't talking about the rioters who were there, and Trump had.
So I'm just looking up the transcript for that quote so I can get the full context, just so I can beat you over the head with it. But
It was basically like an
Oh, yeah.
11-minute conversation, or kind of like back and forth between Trump and the media, And basically the whole gist of it is that the media basically kind of centered down, and yeah, you can look up the transcript and read for yourself. Definitely do that.
The media only played one clip of it.
Yeah, and then so the media basically centered down on this one clip of him saying there were very fine people on both sides, and then they basically were saying that he praised neo-Nazis, and then they actually said their point was that he basically did not condemn white supremacy, and that white supremacists, he basically glorified white supremacy by saying that there were very fine people on both sides.
I mean,
except during that press conference, literally minutes before, he had condemned white supremacists half a dozen times before.
Also, you know what? Also, here's another thing. Right after he said there were very fine people on both sides, the media cut the part he said right after. He said, I am not talking about the neo-Nazis and white supremacists. He said that right after. And the media just cut that part out.
Excuse me. They didn't put themselves, and you had some very bad people in that group, but you also had some very fine people on both sides. You had people in that group. Excuse me. I saw that. Yeah, he didn't say that wasn't talking about anyone. Like, here's like the full transcript if you want in the Discord. The thing about that is it doesn't matter. The time he's been most cornered on the white supremacy thing, he told them to stand back and stand by. It's not really a difficult point to make.
Like, the Proud Boys one?
Yeah.
Well, the Proud Boys aren't a white supremacist organization. I don't like them at all. They're very dumb.
I would beg to differ, but okay.
Dude, their founder is a black Hispanic man.
If you would define white supremacists as believing whites are superior, which is the definition, the leader of that organization, even though I disagree with them, the leader of the organization's a Puerto Rican, half Puerto Rican, half black.
Oh yeah, amazing. Do you know there were Jewish Nazis? It's funny.
Yes, Vosh says it all the time.
Well, yeah.
Oh no, it's historical facts. I wouldn't bring that up, but okay, whatever. Moving on. Points aren't going to be made here.
I wanted to say Muse the Reaper, he joined in. Welcome to the live stream, Muse. I know you've come in on all these live streams, so definitely do welcome. I still want to have you on, by the way. Says Nuo said clear cut Trump denounced neo-Nazis, the media was being unreasonable, Trump denounced them. Muse said Trump denounced them while leaving the door slightly open to white nationalists to support him.
Well, he did denounce David Duke after he endorsed him. He's and I can link you. He's denounced white supremacy a bunch of times. I can link you a video of that.
Oh, please do. I'd love to see it.
Okay, I will link it in there. So let me.
Thank you.
Okay.
So, got a friend in the chat. Should I bring him on with this discussion?
Sure.
Now it's getting Backstar 12.
Yeah, Backstar. He's pretty over to the left. So just.
Oh, wonderful.
So that is fine with me. So let me actually pull him on.
What the heck did they put that video? I remember watching. I'm gonna find it. But, YouTube is doing a good job at hiding it, but I don't worry, I will find it. But
I mean, I'm a socialist. I don't mind him. Bring him on. I'm more the merrier.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Now, who is this Joe Manchin boy with this Red Eagle damn shit on his profile picture? That's what I want to know.
Oh, come on. We brought you on to have a discussion. We're not talking about why he has a Red Eagle icon.
Now,
it's a joke.
Yeah, it's a joke.
Over here talking about a whole bunch of malarkey here. Whether or not I think Donald Trump is the racist president I've ever seen in my life. Let me tell you how.
True.
Anybody that get up here and say I am the least racist person you've ever met tells me as a black man that they like to say the N-word and private.
Oh yeah, it has massive I have black friends energy.
And then when he was at some rally talking about some look at my African American friend, pointing them out.
Yeah.
Come on, man. I mean, then you just look at his cabinet. Look at his cabinet. And compare it to Obama's cabinet or compare it to Biden's cabinet.
Oh yeah, sorry guys, but I'm not like dodging this or anything, but I actually do have to go now.
Okay, that's fine.
Oh.
Yeah,
I'm
not trying to dodge it. I've actually got to go.
No, that's okay.
I would count, like, it doesn't matter what the race, like, I mean, Trump had Ben Carson in there. It doesn't matter what the race of your cabinet is. Like, I don't think, I mean, Abraham Lincoln, I'm pretty sure didn't have any black cabinet members. That doesn't mean he wasn't racist. I mean, that doesn't mean he was racist. Like,
That's
the cabinet
an
doesn't.
amazing standard there. The president of the time of slavery.
Well, like,
Amazing example.
it doesn't matter, like, what the color of the cabinet is. I don't think that
No, it
prescribes
doesn't,
racist
but
motives.
in general, it shows a trend, and we want the trend to continue. So I don't like it's kind of a moot point. Like, identity politics doesn't matter technically, but while it's there, like, there's no harm if it's better. Yeah, you get my.
And then we got all these damn Republicans down there in Georgia and Arizona. My whole thing with the Republican Party is in Georgia, and I know I'm probably changing the subject. I don't know if I'm out of line. Tell me, but these Republicans in Georgia passed a law that said we will have no excuse absentee ballots. Cool, it was all fine and dandy. But in the last presidential election, when black folks and Democrats start using the same system that Republicans put into place, they say, oh no, we can't have that. So then they pass a law in the state assembly to reverse the exact same thing that they had passed years ago. Then you got all these states want to do this voter ID for what? There is no voter fraud. I'm tired of hearing about voter fraud. There is no voter fraud. Me and PG have talked about this before. Where is the voter fraud?
Yeah, that's a completely other discussion about voter fraud. I don't know if we want to get into that right now.
I am just going to say there's voter fraud in every election. I don't think it decided the outcome, but like, you can't say there was no voter fraud.
Yeah.
There's like in every single election, there's voter fraud.
Well, the thing is, I think all of the security apparatus of the US has come out and said this is an election history. So I don't really think.
Yeah, well, I'm saying
there is voter fraud, but like 12 instances of someone forgetting a ballot.
So you're saying that there's voter fraud in every election.
Yeah.
When there's literally who's committing the fraud? Also, I want to know who the hell is committing the fraud.
I'm saying it didn't overturn the election, like, but there's voter fraud in every election. There's like
who is committing the voter fraud?
Local precincts. There's
how?
And every single election, there's like I'm not saying it decided the election. I'm just saying there's in general there's voter fraud.
Once again, I want to know how. What is happening? You keep saying local precincts. What are they doing? And then and then when I ask what are they doing, you go back and say, "Oh, it didn't decide the outcome." I want to know what the hell they're doing.
Baxter, I agree with you. Like, my only point here would be, like, whenever I say there is voter fraud in every election, I mean, like, there's probably one instance of someone dropping a ballot and it being forgotten about. Like, there's nothing major in this election.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying.
Like, there's
like, I don't have
so all I've heard is.
So listen to this. You asked about the voter fraud. So according to the Heritage Foundation, in 2020, there were 1,318 proven instances of voter fraud. Obviously, that is not going to overturn the election. There were 1,100, and this is the Heritage Foundation, 1,135 criminal convictions, 48 civil penalties, 97 diversion programs, and then so in North Carolina, for example, in North Carolina. And in the year 2019, the last instance of voter fraud in North Carolina was in the 9th Congressional District, which was for fraudulent use of absentee ballots. And then
who committed that? You know the funny thing about voter fraud is Republicans are the main ones that are talking about voter fraud, but they be the main ones committing the voter fraud.
True.
They commit the most voter fraud in the country. Let's go back to the last election. Donald Trump gets up here and say, if you receive a absentee ballot, number one, in North Carolina, nobody was sent an absentee ballot unless they requested one, but that's a different discussion. But he said, if you receive an absentee ballot, fill it out, send it to the Board of Elections, then on election day, go up there and vote and see if you can vote. That's voter fraud. That's double voting, illegal. It got to the point where the state Board of Elections had to put out a press release on their site. Double voting is illegal in all caps. Now, I'm not too sure who what's the fella's name?
I think I remember what you're talking about. Yeah, I saw that.
Benny Boy's talking about this fraud in every election. He still hasn't given a example.
I'm saying statistically. I'm saying by the statistics, there's no. Once again, like what he said, the Heritage Foundation. Once again, I'm not saying it overturns every election. I'm just saying, as a statistical matter, there's voter fraud in every single election.
Well,
you have one where 150 million people vote. There's going to be one ballot that's dropped. Like when you have 150 million people, one thing's going to happen.
I mean, actually, I mean, in the California recall election, I mean, they gathered like more than 2 million signatures, and they're going to throw out like a third of them. Like, wow. I mean, that happens too. It's.
I think here is the fact.
What about the several 100,000 people that are going to have their names taken off the list of that California recall because the state deems that their signature is invalid?
How did the signature be invalid?
It's a fake signature. It's forged.
The article.
And then PG mentions the Heritage Foundation. I'll be frank with you.
That was just one source.
Yeah, isn't the Heritage Foundation a Republican-based group? Yeah.
Yeah.
They're a right-wing think tank. So, of course they're going to say something like that.
Right, but they're not going to make up 1,000 instances of voter fraud. That itself is fraud. And that
is where's this fraud happening?
Baxter, like, no one's... I'm Irish. I will just say there is a non-zero amount of fraud in every election, but that... Like, it's usually, like, it doesn't matter. Like, there was no fraud. There's no significant fraud in this election.
That's what, yes, so, no significant. Yes, yes, definitely no significant fraud.
So here's my question. If there's no fraud that was committed in the last election, the Department of Homeland Security said it. The Department of Justice said it. All 50 states said this was the most secure election in American history. So why do Republicans all of a sudden want to put more restrictions on voting? That's what I want to know.
Oh, they don't like black people. They want to stop people voting. That's it.
So, like, and then I'll say this. I hope my stimulus check is coming tomorrow. Okay, because I got to pay some bills. But Donald Trump is going to jail.
There's a question by Election Motion, actually. Sorry for interrupting, but what's your opinion on voter ID, Backstar?
My opinion on voter ID is we should have voter ID simply because when you go to the bank, don't they ask for your ID?
Yeah.
Okay, and so I'm not against voter ID, but when you sit up here and do like what these Republicans in North Carolina trying to do, sit up here and go to these black colleges and say, oh, no, you can't use your ID. They don't qualify.
Yeah, that's one of the issues. Just for context, me and Baxter have had this conversation several times, and one of the issues, because he lives in North Carolina.
So do I, my man. I love
but like living in North Carolina, he said in our discussion that HBCUs, you know, if you use it, like usually, especially in places like Texas, you can use like a college ID to vote. But then they go to North Carolina, and then the state legislature doesn't want to allow HBCUs and actually not just HBCUs, but just college IDs in general.
Oh,
And they
of
say
course.
that a
No,
college
no.
ID would be
This,
valid.
this, no, this is
They'll allow you to use a college ID if you go to some old white school. But when you go out here, some of these black schools, oh no, it don't qualify.
Yeah, this is why voter ID laws are, yeah, for the most part, they're pretty bad because they always disproportionately affect black people, and black people overwhelmingly vote Democrat. So Republicans will implement these laws to help their own votes. So of course, they need to be fixed, or they need to be gotten rid of.
Republicans in the South, this is why that section of the Voting Rights Act should never been overturned. Because that's when all this crap started. But what can we say? The HR 1 for the People Act was passed in the House. Will the Republicans in the Senate vote for it? No. Even though they want election security, they don't want young people to vote. It ain't just black people. It's young people, Hispanic people, basically anybody that won't vote for a Republican Party.
Hispanics do vote a lot Republican. It's a lot less.
Well,
It's a lot more
that's
diverse
Cubans,
than the black
that's
community.
Cubans.
Now,
Yeah.
Most-
And Venezuela.
now they vote for the Republican. I don't know why.
No, the Cubans overwhelmingly go to Trump or to
And
Republicans
Venezuelans.
because they're anti-socialist and they're anti-left wing because of Castro. But most
know
other
what?
Hispanic groups, just Mexican Hispanics, for example, generally lean left because while they are socially conservative, Republican policies do hurt them, so they know it's better to vote for Democrats.
Same with African Americans. They are very socially conservative. Actually, more conservative than whites.
Yeah, but they know that.
Whoa, wait a minute. Where you hear this from?
Well, blacks are the most religious group in the United States. I think 93% of them
What
believe
they
in a
got to do
God.
with being socially conservative?
Oppose,
Religious people tend to be
abortion,
more
religious-
socially conservative.
No, not okay. Most black people I know, yeah, they religious, but they still liberal as hell.
I will say on that, like, I mean,
Have you ever heard of the religious left? Go ahead, PG.
I will say on that Black Americans, they are, I mean, overwhelmingly religious, but I mean, I believe that there are specific differences between, if you go to a white church and then if you go to, a black church.
Yeah, there's a damn whole big difference. Black church, let me tell you, they stay in church all damn day. I can't even got time to do all that. Black people stay in church all day. That's the difference.
But yeah, but then, I mean, Ben does kind of make a good point in the fact that, he kind of, like, where he was kind of going with that, because, black people are overwhelmingly religious, and then religious people do tend to be more socially conservative. It's just that the only thing about that is, and that this argument has been discussed before, and Backstar, I think me and you have discussed it before, basically, it's about that a lot of people, Black Americans, have grown up voting Democrat, and then that their family has voted Democrat, and it's more because their family does it, similar to how a lot of white people, I mean, at least at first, voted Republican because their parents voted Republican.
Well, that still happens.
Yeah,
Not as much. There's
not as much.
definitely-
It's starting to
Yeah,
get to a
but
point
still,
now
yeah.
to where people are actually starting to think for themselves, but then they're not listening to their parents anymore. They're listening to, social media or the mainstream media,
Okay,
something like that.
Ironically, that is literally just the internet.
Internet in
Generation
general.
of people who get information except from TV and your parents, and that just makes you either go Democrat or Republican, or whichever one your parents are. The internet allows for a lot more diversity of ideas, and so over time, a lot more people become more radicalized. Some in very bad ways, but generally, that is the internet's fault. That people are more educated.
Yeah, and
Well,
it's
people
really
do that.
unfortunate that it's like that.
Well, it don't seem like people educated them people down there. And what district is Marjorie Taylor Greene from?
Georgia. Fourth, I think.
Fourth?
It's
I
like
think fourth.
It's like northern Georgia, right next to the border between.
Yeah.
It's right next to the border
Georgia
between.
and
Yeah, it's north of Atlanta. The district that she's in is like kind of like up Alabama,
By
and
Tennessee.
then
Yeah,
by
Alabama and
Tennessee. Yeah.
Well, them people. Oh,
Can you hear me?
And I think barely
I think
kind
a
of
lot better.
touches North Carolina.
Well, them people down there evidently ain't smart. I'm sorry to say this. Vote for that QAnon conspiracy theorist. She gonna sit up
People
here.
in the Brooklyn aren't smart because they voted for
Hey,
AOC.
your mic's a lot better, by the way.
The people in Brooklyn. What about them?
Well, they voted for AOC, so
I'd rather have ALC than have Marjorie Taylor Greene
Fuck yeah.
and Lauren Boebert. I can't stand her. Oh my God.
Lauren
She gonna carry
Boebert,
her.
she's colorful. We got a lot of colorful members of Congress right now.
Yeah, that's them
Lauren-
your people, PG.
That's the nicest thing you could possibly say about them.
I'm Republicans, they want to win black votes. Well, good luck with that.
they're not. I'm going to say that like as a Republican, or I'm not a Republican, but like as a person who prescribes to some Republican values, we're not going to win the black vote. Like you look at it, I think the only black population that voted Republican, you have to do, I think it's like males over 60, highly religious, voted in all last elections and supported the Iraq War. And even then, you only get like 65% of black Americans vote Republican.
Well,
Like out of all those groups, it's insane.
and
Like, you have to boil it down to.
so what do y'all think of Matt Gaetz?
Remind me?
What do you think of Matt?
I
PG,
think
where you at?
I'm right here. Matt Gaetz,
Of Florida.
I like he's he's out of Pensacola. Matt Gaetz, I kind of like him. You know, he's young, he's a little more colorful, but he's a little more held back than Marjorie Taylor Greene and Lauren
Or
Boebert.
Boebert.
In all honesty, I wouldn't say he reminds me, but he kind of like gives off the vibes of like a really young JFK.
Wow.
No.
Okay, so I wasn't familiar, so I just googled him. Being a Republican congressperson, I think he's a very bad person, and that is my entire.
Oh, come on.
No, because
Yeah,
I
you know,
don't know, but being Republican kind of puts a bad taste in my mouth. If you can show me something he's done that's good job.
nothing, not a damn thing.
Well, then he's a bad person.
What has he done? In fact, what has the Republican Party done
Let me see.
in the last year?
America
They
first.
signed the stimulus bill.
Did he vote for the stimulus bill?
Y'all said
That's
y'all
all got
gonna get
passed.
up here. This is my whole thing with the stimulus. I don't know why the Republicans were gonna sit up here and say, "Well, we ain't voting for this stimulus package." It's the same crap they've been voting for the last year. What's the difference?
They're not getting anything out of it. It's the problem.
They are getting something out of it.
But the representatives, the Congress people,
They're not getting bailouts.
They don't.
they're not getting bailouts. That's it.
What they need a bailout for?
So they get
They're
more money.
career politicians. They want the money.
Well, fuck them.
If they,
Exactly.
yeah, that's the
I
thing.
agree.
If they don't bail out these companies, they're not going to get their funding in the next election. Ben, if I could
Yeah.
actually ask you this question, what do you think about the Supreme Court case that, what was it called? The one that basically regulate or almost regulated campaign funding? It was that one about the Hillary Clinton documentary that got banned and it went all the way up to the Citizens United. What do you think of that?
Well, I'm kind of divided on this because I definitely want like campaign, because I think campaigns should be funded, and like I don't want huge corporations influencing our government. That's no good. I don't think any. I think some people want that, obviously, like the politicians do, but I don't want that. I want it to be run by the people. I'm more, and like I think that's a it's both a libertarian thing and not a libertarian thing because you want like the government to be small as possible, but you also want the free market. So I definitely people should be able to spend their money.
Yeah.
I think it should be if companies do want to spend their money, I think it should be massive limits. And I don't think they should be able to print any material condemning or condoning any other political candidate. I really want corporate money out of politics. I really don't want our politicians to be bought and sold by big business. I want them to protect the American people because that's what politics was designed to do. And I still think, obviously the company, and when I was way more libertarian back then, a couple years ago, and I definitely thought okay, it's their money, they should do whatever they want. But I think businesses should have, they can spend a little bit of their money, but very little in order to influence an election. And they can only spend, probably $10,000 on a campaign, or you can only spend it on 2 candidates.
So,
or something really small.
So would you agree that AOC and Bernie do better than this than the Republicans do?
Oh, grassroots! I love grassroots campaigns.
Okay.
So my
Absolutely.
question is this.
Go
Why
ahead,
can't,
Dexter.
the CEOs of these companies contribute the same maximum amount as each individual citizen is? I think it's like $7,000.
Oh yeah.
Why we can't just go like that?
I totally agree on that.
I think the maximum individual contribution right now is 2,500 or so. I might be different on that, but the problem is
It's 2,500.
They fund super PACs, and the PACs can take as much money as they want, and the PACs can then advocate for that candidate. So you can spend 3 or 4 million on a PAC, just like that, and then the PAC will advocate. So if you either got rid of PACs or have found some way to limit PACs, that would do the job for you. But until then, maximum individual contributions aren't really helping.
My opinions on these things have actually been changing over the past couple of years, and especially over this past year. Because I actually agree with Ben, where I was basically more libertarian in a lot of views, because I was just government shouldn't tell us what to do, and then other people shouldn't tell people what to do. So if a big company wants to send money over to a presidential campaign, I think that they should have been able to do it. But then now it's only becoming prevalent now that those companies that are influencing these elections do not have the interests of the American people in mind. So it's now to a point where, I'm seeing a lot of people, and then at least I believe this, I don't know how you guys feel about it, but I see a lot of people now that actually are basically want to Teddy Roosevelt the shit out of these big conglomerates, monopolies. I just call them monopolies now because that's what they are. But I don't know you guys' thoughts on whether we should break up the monopolies, like Amazon. I'm talking about Amazon, Google, Facebook, Apple, even.
No, Apple ain't no monopoly.
You wouldn't consider Apple a monopoly?
What they do that's a monopoly?
Apple doesn't technically fit the definition, but it is.
Yeah, I mean, look.
There's a congressional report that I can send to y'all that basically does identify what Apple has done.
What has Apple done?
Apple engages in a lot of very bad business practices. They actively outcompete smaller practices, like Samsung.
Yeah.
On the market. So
stuff. Nobody want no Samsung. I don't want no Samsung.
Exactly. Well, and you know why? It's because of Apple's marketing. Samsung has a far superior processing power, but it's because of Apple's marketing that you want to buy the Apple. If you think of it from purely an objective, everyone would have a Samsung.
I don't care about the processing power on my phone. I wanted to be able to call somebody. I want to be able to get on the internet when I need to. I want to be able to take a selfie when I need to. All the rest of the technical stuff, I don't care about it.
Let me. So I sent something to the chat on the Discord chat. It's called the Subcommittee on Antitrust, Commercial and Administrative Law of the Committee of the Judiciary, and basically that's their report on the practices by certain companies like Amazon, Google, Apple. And with Apple, basically the reason why they say Apple is practicing monopolistic power is because of their App Store, for example. Their App Store basically anything that could be considered a competitor against Apple is either not allowed on the App Store or it's not put into the recommended feed. It's kind of similar to like YouTube, how YouTube basically says like certain channels don't get to be put on the recommended feed because of their political leanings or because of just videos that they make.
I don't want no right-leaning YouTube channels on my damn recommended feed.
To be fair, it messes with both left and right-leaning channels.
Yeah, isn't
I don't know
that
left.
shadow banned or something?
But the problem is, no, big tech is bad. However, to say that it's biased is kind of misinformation because it's just biased towards whatever way it makes more money. Not having political channels makes it more money because having political channels be active on YouTube, they aren't the money makers. Gaming channels makeup channels make the money, so they're going to push them.
Why we can't go back to 2007 YouTube where we have people just doing funny shit and
I agree.
Stuff like that.
I agree.
YouTube gotta be a business now.
Because they want to make money.
Get off your ass and go to get a job. Get a real job.
It's not hard to have a job.
I would disagree.
Yeah.
The problem is just Trump and modern politics make it so that online it's inevitable.
Trump is in Mar-a-Lago. They finna evict his ass from Mar-a-Lago anyway. Because he can't stay there more than 21 days.
Doesn't he own Mar-a-Lago?
Yeah, I was going to say that. It's his building.
Okay, but he signed a contract when he first bought it in 1991 that said that he could not use Mar-a-Lago as his residence for more than 21 days.
Never heard of that before. I don't have to look.
Why you
I'll
think?
It up.
Worst comes to the guy, he'll end up in Scotland if he needs.
I know people in Scotland don't want him. Now look at.
No, they don't. No. I know they don't, but he has a building and he'll go.
It says club members are banned from staying more than 21 days a year there. But like it's a building, so I don't.
He's a club member. He's considered a club member.
He owns the club.
It don't matter. They suing his ass. The Manhattan DA got his tax returns, and they finna look into his situation. like he said in that debate against Hillary, I'm going to instruct my attorney general to hire a special prosecutor to look into your situation.
I mean, doesn't he have like several other houses?
Yeah.
I don't give a damn where Trump live.
Exactly.
I just don't want him at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. All right.
Yeah, just wait until he Grover Cleveland's himself back into the presidency.
He's not going to win the Republican nomination.
I know. I'm going to agree with that. He's not.
He'll win the nomination.
He'd win the nomination, but he wouldn't win the election.
He won't win the nomination.
No, I think he would.
What? Please.
If he runs, the nomination is his. Even Mitt Romney conceded that fact.
If he wins the nomination, the instead of saying "Make America Great Again," why don't you say "Make America Stupid Again"?
Best.
If Trump wins the nomination and then wins a second time,
he won't.
We should just say "Make America Stupid Again." All right.
The 2024 going. I mean, if this kind of just brings me over to 2024. Also, we've been streaming for like an hour and a half, so I want to go ahead and wrap this up once we're done with this point. But we can talk about it for however long. But since I've been streaming for long enough, if that's okay with you all.
Yeah, let's play Clawfinger.
No.
Yeah.
But anyway, the thing about 2024 is I really don't know about a Republican winning in 2024 because, Ron DeSantis and Donald Trump seem like really good candidates to run in 2024. But Donald Trump being Donald Trump, he has a lot of baggage that a lot of people, it would basically be like, it would basically be like 2020 all over again.
No,
But then if you possibly, but then it comes to
the
like
public perception of the Capitol.
Yeah, because the public perception of the Capitol riot is against him. So that just the Capitol riot alone, along with just 2020 in general, that would be the baggage that he would hold, because he would have to explain why he treated COVID the way he did, why he acted the way he did at that first debate, why he did what he did at the Capitol riot. No matter if you agree or disagree with it,
all that will be irrelevant, because that was what was on the ballot this time. The problem is, though, right now surveys show that the vast majority of Republicans want either Trump or Donald Trump Jr. as their first candidate.
And they're some of the dumbest people I've ever seen. I'm sorry.
They are
I'm sorry. Any Republican, look, I don't care if you're a Republican or not. But if you're going to sit up here and still support that QAnon conspiracy theorist, Donald Trump, and all that shit he said about the election was stolen against me, they dumped the ballots. I'm like, it's some of the...
Here's the thing, you have to let them be dumb, because then they'll lose.
Because it's not funny. It was funny at first, but now it's just kind of sad. All right?
It is, but again, let them lose if they want to.
But this is what I think is going to happen. Trump is eventually just going to fade on out. And once he fades out, his faction of the party is going to keep on moving along. So you're going to have...
That'll take a long time. He'll be trying to get himself in the news. Dead.
He don't... All he got to do...
He's, what, 70 and obese?
74, I think.
Yeah.
Well, he beat COVID. I mean...
And the thing is...
He almost died from COVID. Let's just put that out there.
There's no proof of that, but...
Oh, we've all seen it for air.
Let me find a New York Times article about it.
No,
New York Times is going to say anything. They've had to retract, like... I don't know how many stories.
They didn't retract this.
Just because it's the New York Times. I mean, I subscribe to the New York Times, and
You don't even read the New York... You only subscribe to for elections.
No, I still have a subscription with them.
All right. My whole thing with Trump is best thing he can do is live his life in wherever he want to live at. Hope and pray he don't get locked up by the Manhattan DA or the federal government.
What I was gonna say is, like, and America First Mapping actually brought this up too. Ron DeSantis is literally like one of the, I mean, he basically is, and I talked about this point about an hour ago or something like that, that a lot of Republican voters basically want a Donald Trump that's not Donald Trump. And then that person is going to be...
the rhetoric.
Yeah, they want the policy, not the rhetoric. And Ron DeSantis is that guy.
But okay.
What policy?
That's what I'm saying. Put Donald Trump. I've watched and followed his campaign.
Whenever we're talking about
2016.
policies, we're not talking about, like, oh well, he does this, and this.
He doesn't have.
It's Trumpism. It's Trumpism in general.
That's not policy. That's rhetoric.
Trumpism is nothing but rhetoric. I mean, they don't have any policies.
Like,
I mean, I'll give you the prime example. Healthcare. This man has been talking about he's going to release a healthcare plan for the longest. He never released it. He doesn't know. He doesn't know anything about healthcare. He don't know anything about tax cuts. All he said, I want to cut taxes for the rich.
You gotta love the border wall and that massive success.
So
okay.
Policy-wise, for one thing, I mean, we can talk about America First. America First is policy. It's not just rhetoric, it is policy.
What policy? What name one America First policy?
Trade and foreign policy. It's immigration, trade, and foreign policy.
Yeah.
He got us out of the wars. He tried to, at least. He
sent more troops to Afghanistan. He got us into a trade war with the second largest economy in the world.
He nearly got World War III with Iran.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Then you have pretty much pissed off all of our allies. He pissed them off. NATO, Japan, South Korea, Australia, just pissed off everybody. Yeah, nobody. When Trump was in the White House, nobody liked him.
Yeah.
Everybody.
Also, he heightened tensions in Israel by declaring, I can't remember which city he declared the capital.
Jerusalem.
Jerusalem. Sorry.
I'm like,
but then we do. I mean, you're talking about the move to Jerusalem, but are you ignoring the Abraham Accords?
Look, this is my whole stance on Israel.
Because he basically achieved peace in the Middle East that was not the Camp David Accords.
PG.
We're looking at the reopening of relations between Israel and Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, the United Arab Emirates, Iraq,
Iran, Israel. Israel and Palestine are always going to fight over that strip of land over there. Palestine's going to say, they stole this land. Israel's going to say, we have a right in our Bible. It ain't this. They've been fighting over this land for centuries. They're going to keep on fighting over that land. They done signed so many accords, so many peace deals, and they sit down for 5 minutes, and then they go back to shooting rock RPGs at each other, shooting bombs at each other. They're going to keep on fighting over this. So my question is, why the fuck should we care about it?
Because it could directly impact us, because Israel is one of our allies. And
fuck Israel.
Retaliate against
us. Israel be doing.
Palestine did not agree to this. Palestine's the important thing you want to agree. This is just basically a circle jerk between like Saudi Arabia, Israel, and the US, who are already allies. It's just.
And we need to stop giving weapons to Saudi Arabia to start with. We need to.
Oh yeah, but that's the other thing. Trump, the anti-war president, supplied massive arms deals to Saudi Arabia, which were funneled into Yemen and killed children. Like, I don't see how you can call this anti-war. And he also supplied US troops to Saudi Arabia.
We need to stop funding Saudi Arabia so they can bomb innocent children.
I mean, he actually did have a speech where once he did say that, like, you know, we sold him $400 billion worth of military equipment, but then said he called the king and basically said, like, you need to defend yourself. We don't need to be sticking our neck out for you all the time.
Well, that's all.
He called the king of who?
Doesn't do anything.
King of Saudi Arabia.
Okay.
Isn't policy. He still did the things.
My question. Here's the thing I have.
I'll have to check up on it whether anything was taken action on that, but that was a discussion.
Yeah, one last thing before Baxter says something. Bernie Sanders and I forget someone else. They passed a bipartisan bill through the Senate called, I think it was like the Stop War in Yemen Act, where they just asked the US to stop funding Saudi Arabia's war in Yemen, and Trump vetoed it. Like, I don't know how much clearer you can get. Like, it went through the Senate and he vetoed the Stop Killing Yemenis Children Act. It's kind of weird.
I'll have to look at that.
My whole thing with Saudi Arabia is this: why are we going to give Saudi Arabia weapons of mass destruction when, number one, they funded Al Qaeda? I don't know if a lot of people know that, but Saudi Arabia was one of the primary funders of Al Qaeda.
I think most people know that.
And if you don't know who, well, some people they act like they don't know that.
Some people deny it, yeah.
And if you don't know who Al Qaeda is, those are the people that were responsible for flying the planes into the buildings on 9/11. Then on top of that, we give weapons to Saudi Arabia, and they take these weapons of mass destruction, which they don't have to be nuclear weapons. A weapon of mass destruction can be a bomb, a gun, tanks.
Just depends.
Saudi Arabia.
I mean, that depends.
And they take them and drop and blow up kids in Yemen.
Yeah.
So why are we friends with Saudi Arabia? And we want to be.
I think, and this is just more of a counter argument. The thing, and this is from my understanding of geopolitics, it's more of a geopolitics answer, because
All about
the thing
oil.
about it's not just oil. It's about Saudi Arabia's position in the Middle East. They're basically the only other military that we're going to need to rely on if a war starts with Iran. So, I mean, if you look at the layout of the Middle
That might be
East,
the
Turkey's
stupidest
most
thing
likely
ever.
not going to go to
That might
war
be
with
That might be the
Iran.
stupidest thing I've heard. No, I'm sorry.
Turkey's most
Really?
likely not going to go to war with Iran. Iraq is not strong enough, and they're probably not going to go. I mean, Qatar, the United Arab Emirates, all of them hate Iran. Because
It's religious. I think it's Shia versus Sunni.
it's Shia versus Sunni.
So again,
And
so why are
then
we supporting Saudi Arabia? What's your argument?
I'm not really making an argument. I'm basically talking about that it's the reason that we're in Saudi Arabia, and even though they did what they did, it's
We're in Saudi Arabia.
more of just
Okay,
kind of
my
like
whole thing about
the
Iran is I'm pretty sure the United States can defeat Iran. It may take a little bit, but I'm fairly confident that our military can easily defeat Iran without Saudi Arabia and NATO. So I don't particularly think that we need Saudi Arabia help.
Oh,
Because I mean, the weapons that they have is hand-me-downs. I mean, is Saudi Arabia?
There's a very easy answer here. The reason the US is in the Middle East in general is just
Oil.
Yeah, so
It's oil.
Saudi Arabia has oil. The United States likes oil. The United States likes Saudi Arabia, and Saudi Arabia doesn't like Iran. So the US doesn't like Iran. It's not
It's
super
nothing.
difficult.
It's nothing but the second Cold War.
I mean, we've already been in a second Cold War since 2014.
Wow.
With who? Russia?
Russia, China, Iran,
North Korea in some sense.
North Korea, sorta.
North Korea doesn't count. Let's be honest.
North Korea.
Say that again.
North Korea does not count. North Korea is insignificant on the global stage.
Yeah, like that war. That would, if we go to war with North Korea, it's gonna last basically
Can I
just as long as Operation Desert Storm.
Out where this America's first mapping is? I don't know what he's talking about. He said, "quote The left wants war when the reps don't."
He's talking. I think he's talking about forever wars, because that's
I think
that's
he's-
one of
I think-
that's one of the policies of Trumpism and Trump's policies that he
End the
campaigned
forever
on
wars.
was ending forever
so
wars.
it's funny how I'm sorry. It's funny how this guy, I've been watching him for the last 5 minutes, just spew out a whole bunch of crap. This is the same guy. Ask him to join the Discord. He says he can't.
Well, he was on here earlier and he had to leave.
Oh, he was on here earlier.
Yeah, he was on here
Get him
earlier.
back on here. Get him back on here.
He's
That's
busy.
what I want. How is he busy when he's watching the live stream, live commenting on it? That's my whole thing. He's not too busy. He's just scared.
No.
Then he's saying, I'm watching my brother. Evidently, you ain't watching your brother if you're sitting up here live watching a live stream.
Actually, he's got nothing to say. He's just mad.
Then you have let me see who else is on here, because there's a whole bunch of them in here.
Oh, yeah.
I think they all scared to join the Discord.
Yeah.
And now he's in all caps. Look at my comment. Boy, stop lying. You just
I mean,
scared.
I usually watch his live streams while kind
He's
of like.
scared.
Anyway,
But yeah, we need United States. We need to stop funding Saudi Arabia.
I think we agree on that. So
I think we can stop funding most countries in the Middle East.
yeah.
I mean,
I think all. Iraq actually wants the US out. I think it's kind of amazing, like how much they unanimously want the US out. So.
And and again, you guys keep on asking about like what kind of Trump policies were there. That was basically one of the Trump policies, that we needed to stop funding so much, many other countries.
We got another one.
That's Trump rhetoric. Did he?
Decide the amount of money that he gave over to that he sold the Saudis. I mean, he was the first president since Jimmy Carter that did not get us into another conflict. That's a pretty big accomplishment.
Again, he postured a war with Iran. He supported the genocide in Yemen.
So the thing about Iran is that Qasem Soleimani was directly influencing terrorist groups in Syria and Iraq. He was directly responsible for the deaths of dozens, or probably even more than dozens, of American troops in that region. And the military knew this, and then so it wasn't even a Trump directive to take out Soleimani. It was the DOD's directive to take him out.
I'm pretty sure Trump did sign off on that.
Trump did sign off on it, but Qasem Soleimani was a direct threat to American national security in the Middle East.
I would say he's a direct threat to America.
Because he was, again, just as I said, he was directly responsible for the deaths. So I lost the family member. Hang on. I lost the family member in Iraq for the Iraq War. We shouldn't have been there in the first place. Fuck George W. Bush for putting us there.
A Republican president, by the way.
So, yes,
Terrible.
of course, he was a terrible Republican president. The thing about it is that we shouldn't have been there in the first place. Fuck George W. Bush.
Donald Trump.
So, but we were there. We were there, and then we had to deal with the policies of a really bad president, 2-term president at that.
Mm-hmm.
So, the fact that we were there caused us to have to take actions in order to quell the terrorist activity because we broke it, we bought it. We had to stay there because of that.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
If there was a US general in, say, an airport in the UK, and let's say Kenya bombed this airport with the intention of killing that general,
it's gonna be all hell gonna break loose.
What would the US response be to that?
The same as the same response that Iran's was to us killing their general.
We both know that's not true.
No, PG, you know good damn well.
Yeah, the US response to 9/11 at 2,000 deaths was to kill at least 500,000, but a lot more unrecorded.
PG, I'm sorry to say this, but if any country sit up here and blow up a general in an American uniform, all hell gonna break loose.
Yeah, like the nukes will come out for that.
The nukes, everything coming out. Everything is coming out.
Yeah.
Weapons that the world never seen before coming out.
And
so what's your point? Like, I don't get, like, yes, we retaliate.
The point is, Iran was not posing Soleimani, while he has indirectly caused some deaths of Americans, from what I've seen, it is not overly significant, and the man was an ally, and the US targeted him.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Hold on, who's doing it?
Hello.
Oh, no, sorry.
Selection motion.
Thing earlier.
Yeah, sorry. No, Soleimani was an ally up until he was, because the man was known as the killer of ISIS. So it's kind of strange to me that, like, Iran was exceedingly gracious in their response to the Soleimani killing. It's amazing, like, to start World War III. And Trump was very stupid attacking Soleimani for the sheer purpose of helping Saudi Arabia attack Iran.
So what are we discussing about now?
The killing of Qasem Soleimani.
Soleimani, the Iranian general, yeah.
Yeah.
This
What about
cake.
So the thing about it is that, yes, so whenever we took out that Iranian general, just as we expected, and we didn't kill him without expecting some sort of retaliation, and they retaliated. They retaliated within 48 hours, and they launched.
They sent rockets.
They sent rockets that nearly did kill.
Base in Iraq, I believe.
Yeah, it was in Iraq.
Yeah,
And
they sent warning, and the US was able to evacuate. That was exceedingly gracious of them.
Oh yeah, I remember when Trump claimed that no one died.
Do
No
you think
U.S.
it was
soldier died.
gracious, or do you think it was fear? Because like, I don't want to like be like, oh,
I would say
America
both,
is the best, but like,
because I would say it's intelligence. I would say they both know they have to posture something back because Trump postured with them, so they have to posture a response for their own people's sake. But they also know if they directly attack the US and cause the death of citizens.
It was a smart idea because if they do anything, their people would not be happy, and if they were to directly attack the U.S., the U.S. would also, the entire world would not be happy, and they probably declare war on them.
Yeah, the US would not do the same. If Iran, let's just make it Iran. If Iran attacked a US general in another country's airport, then the US would be killing Iranians within 24 hours.
First off,
there was no doubt of that.
Iran wouldn't even do something like that because
intelligence. The US.
Well, my thinking is, I think either Russia or China or both are directly funding Iran, whether it's giving them arms or it's giving them economic aid. And I also think that Iran and Russia are somewhat of allies. So if Russia and China, or Russia or China, is not backing Iran, Iran's not going to mess with the United States. Why do you think all they did was shoot some rockets at a military base in Iraq and gave us 6 hours notice?
Because they knew if they retaliated too much, we would.
They technically, actually, they didn't really give us notice at all. I mean, the only reason we even knew they were about to fire at us is because we were watching, because I mean, the United States does this all the time. We were basically watching their military bases, and after the killing of Soleimani. After the killing of Soleimani, we started seeing movements on their bases, and then the general of the base that was attacked, I think it was Al-Assad Air Base, the general of the base was notified saying the Iranians are moving their ICBMs and they're about to fire at this base and they're going to level us. And then so they only had 2 hours notice after that, and then so they said that they didn't want to notify, and this is from a ABC interview with the general that was at the base, and they basically said that they were watching them download pictures from a public website of what the military base looked like at that time, and then the last time that they saw that they downloaded the images, that's whenever the military started to make preparations for the attack.
I am currently looking this up. I'm pretty sure
Iran
warned.
I don't think if Iran did give us a warning, then correct me if I was wrong. But what I know is that the military knew that they were about to attack because of the satellite images that they were looking at. I can find you the video and send it to you about what my reference is.
Know that. Everybody they came out and said that.
Oh, yeah. So Iran. Iran sent a message to the Iraqi Prime Minister about the details of the response.
But they didn't directly tell the United States. It was sent to Iraq, and then the Iraqis let us know.
Which is the intelligent political move, because again they can't directly tell. It's for their own political benefit within their own people.
That was an intelligent political move.
Yeah. I don't see the problem with this. This is the correct.
Iran is not going to do anything to the United States or any of our allies without the backing of either China or Russia.
That's what Russia going to do.
Because it probably be without the backing of China, because I think China is a little bit more stronger than Russia.
Oh yeah,
economically, yeah, and military, they're more stable.
Because I mean, be frank with you, I've heard the Russian military.
The U.S. is larger than the next 10 combined. It's not really a problem for the U.S.
Russia has a lot of tanks. That's pretty much their entire military, and they have a lot of nukes.
And I've heard that the Russian tanks are pretty much frozen in Siberia.
Yeah.
Yes. tanks
Essentially,
also
yeah.
require massive upkeep, and tanks don't really help you when you don't have the boats to ship them to the US. You're
The
attacking
whole-
the US.
The whole
Like,
world is
everyone's
basically
doing what-
preparing for the next global conflict, and what it looks like is a lot of countries that are going to play a really big part in this next global conflict do not look ready.
No.
If there's going to be a big nuclear war if there is a big global war against China or the
I wouldn't
US or
say.
Russia.
I wouldn't say even if we're going to go to war with Russia or China, nukes are going to be like
No. You have to understand. If there was any major conflict, nukes would be involved.
It's unlikely.
Tanks are useless in global conflict.
I think
for large.
I think
countries.
if we had nukes, I think we wouldn't direct. I think like both China and the U.S. if we had it, we wouldn't direct it at like each other's countries. We'd probably direct it at like proxy countries. That one side with China, one side with the
Sounds
U.S.
like an amazing idea that would never.
It would very likely because if we just like if someone just up just starts shooting nukes at each other like that kind of because we have a policy for that. It's called MAD. So the thing about it is that like because I thought that too. Because World War III, a lot of people are probably thinking nuclear war, but the possibility of us actually using nuclear weapons in the next global conflict is very minimal. Because yeah, like
we've had massive wars all through like the century with nuclear weapons. We have the Vietnam War. We have
the closest
between two countries. The closest we've had is India and Pakistan.
Yeah, the closest that we've ever been to like an actual nuclear war was, the Pakistan India conflict, and then the Vietnam War. We basically almost used nukes during the Nixon administration in Vietnam, and that was called the Madman policy.
We also were going to do it in Korea, but then the Russians got the bomb.
Yeah. We were going to use them against the Chinese.
ZK Gaming said, "What do you think about the Andrew Cuomo scandal?
Resign.
Cuomo should resign.
Resign.
I think we're just gonna.
Yeah, resign.
He is a disgrace to the Democratic Party.
He is.
Oh God.
But he's just weird. He gonna go up to some old wedding talking about some. I'm so lonely at night. Can you come with me?
The nursing home scandals, I believe, is worse than the other scandal that he had.
Of course.
What other scandal?
Oh, basically, a bunch of older people in the nursing homes
got
COVID.
Yeah.
And he lied about the numbers and sent them back, which is why New York had so many COVID cases around the beginning of the pandemic.
And then Gavin Newsom over in the California
might get recalled.
This is the perfect. I bet you Republicans are just laughing their ass off. The Democratic governors of two of the most liberal states in the whole country, are on the verge of being impeached or recalled.
I don't think either way. There's not going to be a Republican governor in either of those states. It's probably
not at all. Not at all.
They know. But I bet if I was a Republican, I'd be laughing my ass off.
A lot of Republicans are.
What's going on?
A lot.
You got Gavin Newsom. He's sitting up here and he gonna have a damn dinner party. 10, 12 people sitting around a table. No mask, no social distance. And then he gonna get up here and say, we are going to lock down again. Man.
Yeah.
See, the thing about New York is, and
it's New York.
Andrew Cuomo, like, I fucking hate Chris Cuomo, and Chris Cuomo is like a really solid example of like how Andrew Cuomo must be acting right now, because like Andrew Cuomo he basically was just like Trump needs to resign. He's a bully. He's this. He's that. And what the hell is Cuomo doing? He's basically bullying every single person right now that is speaking out against him, or even saying that we want you to resign or be impeached, because he doesn't have the control anymore. And it's
also AOC and Chuck Schumer said that Cuomo should resign.
Both of the senators of New York said that he should resign.
Who's the second New York senator?
Kirsten Gillibrand.
I don't know if it's cinema, but oh my lord. Don't get me started on Christian cinema. I can't stand her.
Oh yeah, God.
No, cause she gonna get up here. My whole thing with her is last time I remember she supports increasing the minimum wage. Right.
Oh no, she's a total sellout. That's all.
But now she gonna get up here and she want to do that little thumbs down like she John McCain or something. Hold please. We need to get rid of her. Joe Manchin starting to piss me off. I was all with it.
Every Democrat at this point.
Huh?
He's probably gonna get voted out eventually.
No, cause see, he getting up here. He taking his king making power too much. All right.
Yeah, he's way too powerful. But a DC statehood will pretty much strip of his any power he has in the Senate.
DC ain't gonna be a damn state. Democrats need to just go ahead and forget that.
Yeah, lastly, before we go, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up this live stream. We've been streaming for 2 hours. Thoughts on DC statehood? From Backstar to, from left to right on the Discord overlay.
All right.
It's Backstar first.
Backstar first.
DC becoming a state, I don't see it happening right now. I would love it to happen, be honest with you. I'm gonna be completely honest with you. I would love to have 2 more Democratic senators.
And 5 more House of Representatives.
Yeah, hell yeah. So, I don't see it happening though, but I would love to see it happen.
All right, Ben.
Okay. I guess 3 things. 1, DC was specifically designed not to be a state and be out of all state jurisdictions, so one state wouldn't be too powerful. 2, I really like it's going to be overwhelmingly Democratic, so I obviously oppose that. And 350 is just such a round, it's such a round number. I really don't want to ruin that because it sounds dumb for the 51 states of the U.S.
Oh, let's make it 52.
We can make Puerto Rico a state too and make it a even number.
Make it 100. I'm sure.
I still like 50. It's
a few, and then we can fucking.
Yes,
Puerto Rico. Now it's my turn, right?
Yeah.
Sure.
No taxation without representation, and also. It was created. It was created specifically not to be a state, that will change, and Joe Manchin will pretty much lose a lot of his power if it does become a state because that's 2 new Democrat senators. The Democrats are supporting it for political reasons, and Republicans are opposing it for political reasons as well, just like with Puerto Rico. So this just seems like one side supporting it because it helps them, and the other side opposing it because it doesn't help them. That's what it seems like to
politics me. Today.
That's pretty much everything.
Yeah,
in politics.
I bet you, if there was a Republican territory,
Puerto Rico actually could vote Republican. It's actually
I made a video on that.
If Puerto Rico was a solid Republican territory, Republicans be all for it as long as Puerto Rico becomes.
And Democrats would be against it.
Well, yeah, that's why Republicans want Washington or Jefferson in Northern California and Southern Oregon. That's why they want the state.
No.
So Republicans.
We have the solution. I have the solution. Okay. So what we do is you make DC and Puerto Rico states, and then you just consolidate Dakota and the Carolinas into 2 states instead of 4.
God,
there you go.
No.
The Super Dakota.
South Dakota's like our mentally. Yeah,
Megakota.
South Carolina's like our different cousin. It's not good enough for North Carolina.
No, South Carolina is a shithole.
Yeah.
Exactly. Thank you.
I'll go ahead and.
As people from the South are you? Yeah.
I'll go ahead and say. I'll go ahead and say my thoughts. I'll go ahead and say my thoughts on the DC statehood. I've had this conversation several times with Backstar, but I really think that, and I'm going off of Ben's statement because not only would it, because of that, because DC was basically made so it wasn't in the hands of one single state. So the way that the DC Statehood Bill is actually created is that it basically would say that all of the federal property that is Washington DC, anything that's owned by the federal government itself would be considered still within the federal government. However, the only thing about that is that it could actually be considered unconstitutional because there's something pretty interesting called the 23rd Amendment of the United States Constitution. The United States Constitution allocates 3 electoral votes toward the District of Columbia as a district, not the state of Columbia, which if it became a state, it would be known as the Douglas Commonwealth. So the thing about a DC statehood is that it would create not only the 3 electoral votes for the federal district of DC, it would have another 3 electoral votes for basically the exact same area. The thing about the federal property that would be allocated under the 23rd Amendment of the Constitution is that wouldn't have no one living in it. It would just be basically a bunch of buildings like the Capitol building, the White House, etc., that would have 3 electoral votes allocated to it for no reason at all. And I mean, maybe a couple dozen people that would actually live in those areas.
Yeah, there's one very easy way to fix literally every problem here, and that is to abolish the Electoral College.
Here.
Yeah, popular vote all the way.
Yeah, so I mean that's one way to solve that issue, is that you abolish the Electoral College and then just go to a popular vote. But that's a discussion
That's
for
unlikely to happen.
way other conversation.
Different things.
But thank you for giving me an idea for next week's stream. So the thing about that is like if DC were to become a state. For one thing, I don't know if it would require a constitutional amendment for DC to even become a state. But then the other thing is that if DC does become the Douglas Commonwealth, then that would require the 23rd Amendment to be repealed from the Constitution. But if DC would become a state, then that would probably say that the 23rd Amendment is moot. Then that's just a whole other political issue created by Congress, basically bypassing the Constitution for that. But Tatrimi, if you want to say anything else, or we could go ahead and close this off.
No, I kind of hit. I thought Electoral College is going to be my last thing, so I think I'm all right. Well, I don't know. I have nothing to shout. I'm good.
Yeah, you already said that you were going to abolish it.
Yeah, he already kind of said that.
Abolish the police. Yeah, that'll do.
Okay, but I'll go ahead and wrap this up here, and I'll be right back with you guys, because I want to say a couple of words after
America first mapping to start living as a gay woman.
All right, y'all stay here real quick. I'll be right back. All right. For those who are watching right now, everyone, thank you all for joining this live stream. I appreciate everyone that joined me today, having a respectful debate, and I really do appreciate it. If anyone wants to join me next week for another podcast live stream, definitely do that. But guys, if you guys are watching this right now, leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you are new. Make sure to subscribe to America First Mapping. Thank you so much to America First for inviting me on, even though we had to hold this live stream on my channel. So again, leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you are new, and I will see you guys next week. Thank you all for watching, and take care.